What's up guys, this is Juan, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how to overcome limitations. When we are born, we come to this world with no clue about how it works and what we should be doing. From a small age, we learn from our parents, TV, books, and our own experience to build a map of the world that help us move around and survive. How could we choose to eat a table or an apple if we don't categorize food from other materials? Or how could we avoid burning our hand if we couldn't discern boiling from cold water? The reason why children are so curious is because they are actively exploring the world through trial and error. They hit their sister, she cries, mom and dad punish him. Now he knows he shouldn't be punching his sister if he wants to keep watching TV at night. By the time we reach adulthood, we've amassed innumerable conceptual models of how reality should work. These are created by our own previous experience and what we learned from another, whether it's a friend, a parent, a book, or a TV show. But very rarely we stop and question the way we're holding the world and reality. Since we believe it's just a true reflection of what's out there, we walk around holding reality as objective, solid, and unchangeable. Consider otherwise that our perception of reality may not be a clear reflection of what is out there. The conceptual models we've built through our lives act as a kind of filter that help us or not categorize and understand what we are perceiving. The problem comes when these ways of holding reality are not effective or helpful, neither for society or for ourselves. This is what I call limitations. What is the limitation then? We tend to think about limitations as external factors that restrict our capacity to do something. It is the reason why, albeit often unknown, we are not able to act effectively and bring about the results we are striving. In other words, if we have a particular objective and we couldn't accomplish it, it's probably a result of a limitation. There is something that's constraining the system, whether the system is a person, society, a scientific theory, or an economic model. Most of us believe that limitations are an inherent property of the objective world. We are not capable of accomplishing something due to something out there. But is that the case? If we look closely, most of our so-called limitations are in fact a result of the way we regard reality to be. Almost every time we fail at something, we will discover that it was due to a self-imposed limitation. That's why I say that all limitations are self-imposed. As we've seen before, when we're young, we develop models of reality to explain how everything works and avoid feeling lost. After years, we forget that we created these models of reality and we begin confusing it with reality itself. We build our own prison. Frustration is assured when the conceptual representations of how the world works are not true or based on their experience. They're just inaccurate. Therefore, limitation happens when our mental models of reality are not correct representations of what's actually out there. Imagine we want to travel to Barcelona. We want to enjoy the beautiful beaches that the city has to offer and walk around the different colorful neighborhoods. Determined, we buy the tickets and fly there the week after. When we arrive, the first thing to do is download Google Maps. In this case, we trust that Google provides us with an accurate representation of the city of Barcelona. Otherwise, we might want to go to La Sagrada Familia, but we might end up somewhere totally different. In this metaphor, Barcelona would be life in general, and Google Maps would be the representations we have of life. Unfortunately, we obtain this information from sources that are as lost as we are. On the other hand, the ball is on our court. Since most of the limitations we encounter are in our hands, the only thing to do is to change the way we understand reality. A paradigm shift. Let's see some examples of how limitations work in real life. So for example, in the area of romantic relationships, it's difficult to find a relationship that's healthy, that's sustainable, and people in there are fulfilled and are growing. Why then? Why? Maybe it's not because of the way relationships are, but the way we are holding love and relationships itself. We believe that love is something that happens to us. We feel love because some external factor creates that feeling. But what if we start holding love as something completely different? What if we start holding love as something that is created by us? It's a choice, it's a conscious choice that we make every day. Love, maybe it's independent of external objects and we generate it. That would change the whole context of our relationship, isn't it? Now, for example, let's say I want to become the best piano player in the world, but I believe that talent is something that we are born with, and unfortunately, I'm not one of the lucky ones. So I give up. But what if we do the research and realize that talent is something that we create, and all the virtuosos and all the best players in the world, whether it's golf or guitar players or football players, it was because they were training hard for hours and hours on end. Now, if we start holding talent and genius as something that we create, that we are in possession of, and that we can generate, so instead of giving up, I would start practicing more, or not, and just lie to myself and say that I cannot do it because I'm bad. The limitations aren't always personal. They can also be found in science, education, and even culture. Let's see. Newton's law of universal gravitation was introduced in the 17th century. With it, a model of reality composed of objects, space, and mass. This way of understanding the universe tested useful to explain how objects behave, from the amount of energy your face will receive if you fall and hit the ground, to the movement of the earth around the sun. This theory appeared to be a true explanation of how the world worked. But after 3 centuries, scientists started to observe that the theory had some limitations. One of them, for example, was its inability to explain Mercury's orbit to a high degree of accuracy. In other words, a limitation. It was not until the theory of relativity was created that we were able to predict exactly what was Mercury's orbit. Science believed that the universe worked as Newton said, but before we knew it, the theory was falling short. A paradigm shift, a different way of holding reality, was needed to explain those occurrences that didn't fit the previous model. Another example, in sports. Sometimes in sports, a paradigm shift is needed to improve performance and defy the limits of that current sport. Let's say, for example, in high jump, the standard was to jump with your body in direction to the bar, like you always do. Everyone was sure that that was the best approach to do it. But a guy called Dick Fosbury made an important discovery. He realized that if instead of jumping facing the bar, you jump and turn your body in the air so your back is facing the bar, you will be able to jump higher. At first, this was considered a joke, but with time, this new way of jumping called the flop became a standard in high jumping. Again, a limitation, a paradigm shift, and a more effective way to deal with the situation. Another example that relates to Inerize and what it stands for is education. We've invented iPhones, computers, internet, Bitcoin, AI, airplanes, and video conferences. We cured diseases that 100 years ago were deadly, but we failed to reinvent, to redesign the educational system. We still based our ideas of education and the human being in outdated models of what a human being is capable of. We see people that are depressed, that are not fulfilled, not happy, because we gave them the wrong education to begin with. The only way out of this mess is to radically change the way we understand what education is and why it was created. Once we comprehend that its purpose should be to give people the tools they need, not just to be effective and successful, but happy and authentic, many of our problems will disappear. Lastly, let's analyze the culturally accepted way we hold happiness. Many of us believe that happiness is the reason we are alive and everything we do is to achieve that goal. We buy houses and cars, get into relationships, travel, get money, meditate, or go out and party. Notice that at the end of the day, we're not happier than yesterday, or a couple of months ago, or years ago. And then we start considering that maybe there's something wrong with ourselves. Maybe I'm not being happy because there's something inherently broken with me. But we never consider that there's a chance that the problem resides not in ourselves, but in the way we culturally understand happiness. This misunderstanding happens because we just accept what is being told to us without giving it a second thought. Additionally, schools don't care about teaching this, so we are left with inaccurate ways of relating to happiness. What if being happy has anything to do with having things go your way, but it's being happy no matter what happens? We can be happy if we are rich or not, if we're in a relationship or not. Basically, happiness it's about being happy. In conclusion, the reason we are not happy is not because of a limitation. It is because we think of happiness in the wrong way, because nobody taught us what happiness really is. In all the examples we've been through, limitations that appear to be external and objective always ended up being caused by an incorrect model of reality. When we hold reality in a way that is not based on truth or direct experience, we end up limiting ourselves in some way or another, whether this is personal, societal, or even scientific. That is why the only way out of the limitation, it's a paradigm shift that is founded on truth and direct experience. When our ways of holding reality are accurate, we become more effective and empowered, just because now we're relating to what's actually out there, what's physically existing, and not what it's in our mind, what's a concept of what's out there. A problem cannot be solved unless we work with what's true, with what's actually happening, not what we believe it's true. What is true is that we are inventing our own limitations because of inaccurate models of reality. In the happiness example, the truth is that happiness has little to do with winning or surviving. Culturally, we believe that things going our way is happiness, when it's actually not. But how could we start being really happy if we don't make that distinction in our experience? If we don't realize the difference between surviving and being happy? Since it's not true that happiness equals things going our way, we cannot improve, we cannot be more happy. Accepting that all limitations are self-imposed is difficult. Why? Because it's at the core of being responsible for ourselves. We stop blaming external circumstances for the problems we are having, and instead we observe that our models of reality are the ones limiting us in some way or another. The essence of responsibility is taking charge that we are part of the problem, we are partially generating it. Even if we manage to change the situation for the better, another problem will surely arise just because we are the ones creating it. When we take this attitude towards our complications in life, we put ourselves at the core of them and we act from there. The ball is in our court and now we're able to act differently and perhaps more effectively. The question now becomes, how? The easiest way to discover where you have limitations is by noticing where you are experiencing some kind of a struggle in your life. This struggle is often generated by how you are holding reality and not because of an inherent problem with the situation. Remember the piano player. He thought he was not actually talented in piano, when in fact the truth was that talent is generated and is not something you are born with. How do we get over it? Here's a 4-step process to get rid of limitations. First, becoming conscious of the fact that you are struggling in some aspect of your life, whether it's business, work, sports, diet, what have you. Without becoming conscious of it, there's no way to fix it. How can you fix something that we don't know it even exists? That's the root of therapy. Becoming more conscious of the mechanisms that run us, even if you're not aware of them at the moment. 2. Ask yourself, what do you think is true about that situation? What is the way you are holding reality that may be causing the limitation or the problem that you're having? 3. Once you become aware of the limiting ways you are holding reality, be open to the possibility that there may be more effective ways and accurate ways of relating to it. 4. Go find out better ways to hold that reality or that specific situation. You may read books or do research or just try to directly experience what's the truth of the situation. Although you read something in some book, you should always take responsibility to make sure that it's true in your experience. Start with an open mind, with not knowing, and experience the truth for yourself. Take responsibility. Now, this 4-step process may sound simple, but it can be emotionally challenging sometimes. We must let go of the way we thought reality behaved to make space for something truer, more accurate to arise. But it's worthy, and you will live a far more fulfilled life, more true life. In conclusion, one of our goals in life is to build models of reality that are empowering, not only for us, but for one another, that help us bring the best from one another to be healthier, freer, happier, as an individual and as society in general. This process will take a lifetime because there's always something to improve, to discard, to learn, and to develop. We can always be more honest, aim for truer ways of holding reality. The more conscious we become, the freer we are and the more effective our actions will be. Take responsibility for yourself. Always question your beliefs because they may be limiting you in some way or another. Always question society and culture because they might be doing more harm than good to yourself. There's always a more accurate way, an empowering way of holding reality. And the best part, it's in our hand to discover it. It's in our hands to discover what is the best and accurate way to understand reality. Inerize goal is to provide people the first education platform to become a whole human being. Not just successful human beings, but ones that have fulfilling relationships, are happy, have a life purpose that empowers them and are wise. They are intelligent, they are curious, they work together to build a world that is worth to live in. They like politics, they like philosophy, they like psychology, they love learning. That's a whole human being. A human being is the one that sees himself not just as a mind, but as a body, a consciousness, and a part of society that's bigger than him or her. He works on every level of his being to achieve an integral development, not just body, but mind, consciousness. That's why Inerize is here, and I suspect that this is why you're here too. Thank you for watching. Peace.